Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Squarespace. Use promo code TWiST10 when signing up to receive a 20% discount for 6 months. And GoToMeeting. Use promo code START to begin your free 30-day trial.
Hey everybody, today on the program, a very successful entrepreneur on a second company, Yaron Galai, is here, and he is the CEO of content discovery engine Outbrain. You've probably seen their little story widgets at the bottom of pages on Curbed and Business Insider and a bunch of other sites. We're going to take an Ask Jason caller, and Tyler is back from Europe, and he's got a ton of new insights for us. All that and more right now on This Week in Startups.
What it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, it's This Week in Startups. This is the program where we talk about entrepreneurship, we meet entrepreneurs, and I'm here with Tyler Crowley, my partner in crime.
Howdy doody.
Howdy do da day.
Yes.
How was Paris and the old UK?
Très bon.
Très bon? C'est bon? We had a great time.
Yeah.
We hit the UK, had some great...
Wasn't that cool?
Just 150 people showed up for the This Week in Startups meetup in London.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
About half of them were entrepreneurs, about half of them were either aspiring or from big companies. And then we take the train to Paris and 75 founders, all founders, at Le Camping.
Right.
And Kirsten did a great job setting that up. And what a wonderful experience to go through two great cities and see all these amazing entrepreneurs crushing it on the daily, just crushing it in the grind every day. Making it happen.
Starting to get their game together.
It's the real deal. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that we're going to see, we're going to see the continuation of what happened with Last.fm, Spotify, and Skype, which is multi-billion-dollar companies coming out of Europe. And there's, we've been talking for a long time. We have a lot of entrepreneurs call in and say, hey, should I leave Europe? Should I not leave Europe?
Right.
And I think we're going to get to the tipping point where staying in Europe for an entrepreneur is going to be equally viable to coming to the United States.
Yeah.
Not that coming to the United States isn't better or has its advantages.
They need to come up with a key differentiator for their market that would draw, like London, I think for mobile, might be the best place you can be.
Why is that?
I mean, they need to pick one, like something like mobile. Like they need to say,
we own this.
We do this better than anybody.
Yeah, like in France, we understand fashion, we understand culture, we understand shopping better than anybody.
Maybe?
Food, whatever it is. Yeah, just like New York has media, Wall Street, etc.
Advertising.
Publishing, basically.
LA has content. We have Hollywood. Yeah, to play to your
It's
strength.
like video or publishing, right? So whatever the strength is. And hey, here's some strength that you need to play too, which is Squarespace. I use Squarespace every day for the launch website, and it is amazing, 24/7 support. And they've just added...
And it never goes down, you notice that?
Never goes down. And I've had the launch site now get picked up on Reddit. It was picked up on Reddit last week. Pounded, like thousands of people a minute.
It doesn't even get slow.
Doesn't even get slow because they've built the right architecture from the bottom up, not like some old blogging platforms. And you can really quickly import, hey, pull up my screen, guys. They've got these really advanced importing tools, so you can just take your old blog and move it right over. If you're using WordPress, Movable Type, Blogger, God forbid, or TypePad, and I can tell you, of those four,
God forbid.
There's
why God forbid Blogger?
Well, because Blogger's a disaster, right? I mean, it hasn't been updated. It's sort of wallowed inside Google. It doesn't have any of the modern features, and I would say Blogger, TypePad, Movable Type are absolutely horrific platforms to work off of right now. They're really bad. And WordPress is okay, but certainly not as sophisticated as Squarespace.
Are you speaking as someone who knows something about blogging platforms?
I know a little bit about blogging platforms. And so if you have one of these old, dying platforms, move your site now. Move it now and start getting these great features like, if you want to put a social widget up on your site, look how beautiful this is. I'm just going to play a little video here. You want to put your Flickr feed up. You just say, use my real name, put the timestamp on. I want to put up my Twitter feed. Do it in a bubble style. No, do it in a block style. No, do it as a wallpaper. Make it look beautiful. And those are the kind of design templates that Squarespace gives you Look at it putting the flicker in there.
amazing, isn't it?
You just type in your photos and boom, they're up and they look gorgeous. Oh no, let's go through a 5-second element, auto crop it, slide transition, boom, boom, boom. They take the time to really figure out how to make things look beautiful at Squarespace and how to make publishing easy. That's why I use it. That's why Tyler uses it. That's why they're a partner with This Week in Startups, because they are a friend to entrepreneurs, and I would like you all to go there and use it. If you would like to create your own beautiful website, forward your email to, after you sign up, forward your email to Tyler@mahalo.com. No, don't do that.
You know what else we should do, though?
Forward it to contest@thisweekend.com, and we'll send you a free This Week in Startups bag, which looks like this. It's gorgeous, and you'll get it for free if you sign up. And I'll put some swag in there as well. What do you say,
I saw
Hal?
some people in London with those, actually.
Oh, yeah, really?
I wanted to, if somebody makes something cool with the site, I want to see it anyways, but we should feature some of the really cool ones on the show.
Oh, yeah. So make something really nice. We'll put you in the next advertisement for Squarespace. Thank you, Squarespace. Next on the program, we have a serial founder who sold his last company, Quigo, to AOL in December of 2007, right after I sold my company to them, for a sum of $363 million. My goodness. And he did 2 companies before that. He served in the Israeli Navy for 6 years. He and I were actually in the Mossad together for a little while. We did a couple of missions, but we can't talk about that. And now he's doing Outbrain, which is a content delivery, discovery, and recommendation engine, which you've probably seen on people's sites. It looks just like this. So when you see at the bottom of sites, like, oh, here are 2 stories from the site, and then there's one that's a paid distribution, and it's typically got a sexy girl in it, or something really interesting, like a real viral story.
Yeah.
Actually, that's from Wired, but yeah, good use of the middle frame there. And he's built a tremendous business with that. So welcome to the program, Yaron Galai. Are you there, Yaron?
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Hey, how you doing?
Very good. Very good.
How's everything in New York?
Oh, it's excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
I can't talk about the stuff we did together in the Mossad, but happy to talk about all the rest.
So you served for 6 years in the Israeli Navy.
Yes, I did. I always say don't get too excited over Israelis serving in the military, because we all do. But,
Right,
yes,
it's
I spent
mandatory.
Almost 7.
Did you work in the kitchen, or did you work, like on a?
No, I was a weapons officer on a frigate, so
Wow.
managing all the weaponry, and then I commanded a tank carrier for a while.
Do you think that serving in the military is one of the reasons why so many great founders come out of Israel?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, at the age of 21, 22, you get to do crazy stuff that's totally sort of age inappropriate. It would otherwise take another 20 years to do. And then, you're out of the Army at 22, 23, and you just have the feeling of, I could do everything, anything, any challenge. Yep.
So it's a pretty big confidence booster in that way.
Yeah.
And was your last startup actually in Israel, or did you ran it out of New York?
So we started Quigo out of Israel and ran it basically from there for the first 3 years or so. And then we ended up moving the whole company to New York. So the rest of the company was here.
And it specialized in SEM, search engine marketing, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so we had 2 products. We started with Massive SEM, which was focused on basically the database-driven or dynamic websites of the world, the Amazons. And so we were able to expose those in the search engines. And then we launched a second product, which was a white label AdSense, so contextual ad network. That was actually the product that became more interesting.
Yeah, so you guys basically said, hey, if you want to put text ads like Google AdSense on your blog, but you don't want to give Google their, whatever it is, 35%, and it was even more maybe back in the day, this was an incredible option for people who had a large site, correct?
Yeah, so it wasn't about the who or how much revenue share you give away. It was more about the Google runs a black box, and so the good publishers are the ones that create all the value, all the bids that advertisers are willing to place on Google are really placed on the good sites, not on the long tail of fraud, crap, et cetera. And so what we did is we told the good sites, let's pull you out of the Google black box, and advertisers will value that and put a premium. Our our CPCs were quite higher than Google's.
And AOL eventually bought it because they were going to be the massive ad destination. They bought advertising.com. They had a bunch of technology. What happened to the asset now? It's, whatever number of years later, 4 years later. Is it still operating inside of AOL?
Yeah, it's absolutely operating. It's of our crop of ad-based companies, which were 4 or 5, the Dakotas, et cetera. It's the only one that actually survived. It's still being operated as AOL's sponsored listings. Tim Armstrong just recently mentioned it as one of the most interesting things that AOL is doing, which people don't usually know about. So as far as I know, it's doing pretty well, but I haven't been involved for about 4 years now.
Yeah, and it's strange how these large companies, they don't really maintain a relationship with their alumni like you might think they would. It's not like you're getting calls on the regular basis from Tim Armstrong saying, hey, you sold us this thing for a couple $100 million. What do you think our strategy should be with it?
Nope, not a single call.
It's very weird. It does. I mean, it feels weird to me sometimes that I don't get the phone call like, hey, you guys built Engadget and Autoblog. We're going to make some changes. Thought maybe we'd have coffee or something. They just sort of don't do that, do they?
No, not a single call, which is pretty weird. I also had the opportunity to acquire a company out of AOL last year, and again, it's pretty much no follow-up on Quigo. So
yeah, and so when you went to buy the asset out of there, did you have to introduce yourself and say, by the way, check with business development because I sold you a company a couple of years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a new regime too. We sold it to the previous one, but absolutely, it was we had to reintroduce ourselves. Yep.
So you have this tremendous success, and you can retire, but you decide you're going to take another swing at the bat. I think this is your 4th company, perhaps.
It is.
And you do Outbrain, and you started that, I guess, in 2006, 2007, right after you sold.
Yeah, yep.
And so what is the mission? What do you guys do?
So our mission is to provide every reader on basically every publisher site the most interesting link that we can show them. And one of the reasons I went back at this, and this has been an old bug of mine, is I felt that with Quigo, as we were getting better with the business, better on execution, more customers, more revenue, the quality of the ads was dropping to the point where there are ads that I carefully move with my mouse so that I don't click on them by mistake. And what I realized is that we're not focusing on the right stuff with all the ads, and especially with the whole bidding model. We kind of let the scammer of the month flow up in bidding and win basically all the placements. And so with Outbrain, I really wanted to fix that, clean up the mess, and hopefully show every reader the most interesting link possible. And you pulled a screenshot before you. Our paid link was from Wired magazine. That's for me kind of a dream come true. Yeah,
I mean, I'm looking right now at curb.com, and that's one of my favorite sites. Lockhart Steele, of course, has been on the program, and he's got this great story here. And then when you get to the bottom, it says related links. And something from Style Bistro and something from History.com. Both of those are sponsored, which means they paid, I'm assuming on a per-click basis. Then Kim Kardashian from My Village, something from Curbed, and then something from Environmental Graffiti that is paid. So how does this exactly work? Curbed, what's the business relationship?
So publishers that use our service use it for free. They install it. They get 2 benefits. One is they get those links to other, in this case, Curbed stories, and they get a page view lift. We believe our engine or the algorithms behind it are the best available for recommending the most interesting content. And so sites that use us typically see a 5 to 10% page view lift just by installing us. And that, again, is a free service. And then for the links pointing outside to those Wired stories or the other ones that are History.com, those sites pay us on a cost per click basis. And with publishers like Curbed, we share the revenue. So for Curbed, there's 2 things they get out of this. They get a page view lift, great user experience, and they get a check at the end of the month.
So most people would pay. I know that people were selling this sort of recommendation engine software. You came in and saw that people were selling the recommendation engine software, which would index the entire site and then read the contents of the current story and then intelligently match it. You said, this is why make them pay for it? Publishers are broke. Why not turn it into a revenue opportunity?
Exactly that. And I saw this being exactly where search was in 1998, 99, where search originally was a licensed model. Google was licensing their search engine. Inktomi was the biggest licensor at the time, and Fast was. And then Overture came along, and eventually Google too. And the whole business model flipped from licensing the service to thinking about that as prime real estate for showing interesting advertising. And so I thought the same has to happen in the recommendation world. And that's exactly what we did.
And how much do people get per click on these stories? What's the average click? What's the range that a publisher can expect?
So the way we work is we try to, on yield, so in yielding on our space, we try to be as competitive with any other paid link they could put out there. But how we think about yield is a little different from any other ad solution. So we don't focus as much on the cost per click and how high that is. We focus a lot on the click-through rate, and we want to get a lot of clicks for the publishers, and by that generate the yield. So the average CPCs, or the CPCs that we get on our network, are between 5 and 50 cents, depending on who bought the link. For most of the publishers you see on there, it's usually in the 5 to 10 cent range.
Right. So if you're a publisher making really good content, like here you have something from Style Bistro, you have something from InStyle, you had something from Wired before, something from History.com. These are not spammers. I mean, these are the cream of the crop publishers. So you're saying they don't have to pay as much per click, but Curbed can be, in a way, they can feel proud or at least not disturbed that they're putting up something there that's ruining user experience, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So exactly that.
Okay. Well, this has been Jason Calacanis for Outbrain. I feel like I'm doing a commercial, Tyler. The cost per click is lower, but the click-through rate is much higher. And a lot of people have been ripping this off. I see it constantly everywhere now, this sort of format. As an entrepreneur, now that you see everybody seeing this work and knocking it off, how are you responding to that?
Well, I think in most cases it's actually us powering it. So there are different layouts and ways publishers put it on their site. We typically don't mark it as being powered by Outbrain. So unless you look at the tracking URLs, et cetera, you won't necessarily know it's us. So there are a few others knocking it off. I can't lose too much sleep over competition. What we try to do is really have the best algorithms so that month over month and week over week, our numbers increase and our publishers are more satisfied. And I think that's basically all we could do.
Now, how much of this was inspired by Link Exchange, which everybody remembers Tony Hsieh's company sold to Microsoft back in the day, where I would give some banner ad space, you would give some banner ad space, and we would trade that space. Essentially, I would be publisher A, you'd be publisher B. We trade space, and then Link Exchange took like 10% of it or whatever to then sell. How much of this was the inspiration? Did it come into your mind a little bit like, wow, that was such an amazing business Microsoft bought and then shut down and never used again?
No, well, I knew Link Exchange very well. It wasn't much of an inspiration for us because I believe that having the links be reciprocal, so just any kind of reciprocal relationship in exchanging links, eventually will create a slippery slope of quality going down. And for us, really, the most important thing is how do we present each reader with the most interesting link? That's our mission. I don't believe a reciprocal link exchange can achieve that.
Right, so you're not doing that. Like Curve doesn't get a certain amount of inventory in the system. They get money. If they want to spend that money on inventory in the system, you tell them, go ahead and spend it.
That's right, and there are a few that do both, but there's no relationship between the two sides of this. So plenty of our publishers just buy traffic or just use us on their site.
How much of a hand do you play in making sure that the ads are classy, for lack of a better word? Because you do see a lot of bikini, cleavage, sensational headlines being used around the internet. You guys seem to have maybe tamed it a little bit, but obviously it's still publishing, so there's going to be 8 bikini diet stories. How do you manage that? Do you review each ad before it goes out?
Yeah, we review every link that goes out, and we're kind of figuring this out ourselves as we go, and hopefully getting better about it. We try to be a good gatekeeper, making sure first only content makes it into our index, so there's nothing other than legitimate content. And from there on, we learned to be not as judgmental as we used to be. So I think many editors are kind of disappointed with the stuff that their audiences click on, but our algorithms try to optimize for what people find to be the most interesting. And you'll see Atlantic Review articles and Wired articles, but also the bikini articles show up.
How do you think publishing has changed in the last 10 years, since blogging emerged and the sort of proliferation of, let's call it reblogging, people, Huffington Post maybe being guilty of this a lot, Business Insider, people reblogging other people's content, using better photos, using more sensationalistic headlines, and then beating them in the SEO wars. How do you think publishing is doing in general on the web?
Well, I think it's a pendulum, and I think it used to be that publishing was when you published for human beings, and the pendulum kind of swung pretty aggressively on that, and became that you don't really publish for humans, you publish for crawlers, you publish for spiders that you never need to worry about a spider actually reading a second article or coming back to you because you caught the spider. And I think that pendulum is absolutely swinging back to needing to publish to human beings. Panda helped that. I hope we're helping that with everything we do. We try to think of whether we're serving humans or spiders, and we try to only serve humans. So I think the world will get better, but it's a period of pain where the winners are basically the ones that focus on spiders.
Hey, so here we're looking at Business Insider. I see at the bottom of their stories now. Did you guys have Business Insider as a client at one point, or?
They put us in and out. You could look at Mashable, All Things C, if you want.
Cool.
Folks,
they have a sort of similar execution here from a company, it seems, called AdBlade. And if you look at it, just off the top of my head, compared to the ones I've seen, they're not mixing in the Business Insider stories.
Right.
And so I instantly, Tyler, look at this and go, spam, ads, low class.
Yep.
Whereas when I look at the Outbrain integration, I say, oh, it's sponsored, but it's so elegantly framed, just a little nuance of the related links and the fact that when you hover over it highlights, the fact that images are cropped properly, a nice subtle gray, text. I mean, the design of your units is a big part of the success, isn't it?
It is, and we try to make it look as if it's part of the site. That's why you don't see any of the Outbrain branding on it. We don't slap anything. We automatically inherit a lot of the look and feel of every page we're on. So the style of the links and the colors and all that is inherited, and it's very important. And the biggest difference between what we do and the AdBlades of the world is that those are ads and they're mostly spam, and ours are all pointing to content. By the way, when describing what you see with our links, you almost called it by our original brand for the product, which was sponsored but good. So,
sponsored but good. That's interesting.
We think that's possible.
The other clever thing there is they're not all sponsored in that unit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here, look. I mean, here is what happens if you click on the Business Insider link. You wind up at this, like silent heart attacks. It automatically plays audio. It just looks ganky. Then you're on this one with auto loading video and a spammy landing page. But look, if you click on the things off of Curb.com, you get a great video from History Channel, a trusted brand. Or you go to see Keira Knightley at Style Bistro, which if you were into fashion, you might be very into this. Or InStyle, which is a pretty high-end brand. You get to see the 50 best celebrity bikinis. Certainly a little pandering, but beautiful nonetheless. A much better, elegant solution. But they're probably paying 3 times the click-through rate, and they might out-monetize you. How do you convince a publisher to go with maybe a little bit less short-term money when they're desperate for short-term money,
right,
and go for the long, let's make a more beautiful site and a more beautiful user experience? How do you lobby them on that?
So two things. First of all, what matters to publishers really is the yield. It's not the actual CPC they get for every click, it's the yield. And yield is made up of two factors. It's cost per click, but then how many clicks do you get from every 100 page views? And so we think that on yield, we're as competitive as anyone else, and we should get better. The thing is, for those folks that focus purely on CPC, and I know because Quigo is like that, you get to a pretty clear glass ceiling where you got the scammer of the month, the guy that can afford the highest cost per click, and that's it. You can't bump it up anymore. That's the highest yielding that you could ever get. Whereas if you focus on CTR instead, on the click-through rate, if you offer an increasingly interesting link, better content, and more, better algorithms, you can keep pushing up that glass ceiling and increase the yield. So I think long-term we win on the yield. I think it's going to be a better value proposition. And the second thing is that we're a bit of an apples to oranges because, again, just through those internal links that we mix in there, the publishers get a page view lift, which is pretty significant for them. With ad solutions, it's purely page views or users out.
When we get back from the commercial break, I want you to tell us where you see the video market going. Obviously, that's been huge for user consumption, but I want to know if the monetization is there to actually back up all of this consumption when we get back from the break. Oh, hey, here we are. We're in the commercial break, and as you know, on the program, it's white-labeled advertising. What that means is, in some ways, like Outbrain, we actually care about your experience during this moment of the show, during the advertising moment. And during the advertising moment, we read about, just for a minute or two, maybe it's 3 if we get crazy, but just for a couple minutes, about a sponsor, a partner who makes this show possible. There's like 9 people who work at the company here at This Weekend. And these sponsors make great products. Now, this is the easiest read in the world. GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting. I use it for every goddamn meeting I do. You know how many meetings I do? How many meetings do I do a day?
I can pull up your calendar.
Yeah, you have access to my calendar. It's like it's getting booked in 15-minute increments, 20-minute increments.
Yeah.
It's insane. It used to be I used to be booked on the hour. Then they went to half hour. Now there's a lobby going to, can we book Jason out in 20-minute increments?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like, I feel like a commodity. I might as well be traded on the futures exchange. But hey, the reason they're able to do that is because they have the rock solid GoToMeeting. When the meeting starts, it starts on time. When the meeting ends, boom, we're off the meeting. It's rock solid. It's perfect. We use it every time. And you know what? I've used the free stuff. The company Microsoft owns. I'm not going to badmouth anybody. But if you use the free stuff, like, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten onto the free stuff and said, oh, I added you. Did you see me? Mm-hmm. Are you on there? Oh, I don't see you. Oh. Right. Oh, did you switch it to this? Did you turn your video on? Oh, what version do you have? Mm-hmm. Like, how many times have we been on?
The microphone settings.
The microphone settings. It's like there's a million freaking problems. And when I use GoToMeeting, it works perfectly. And as a testament to that, the interview you've been listening to, crystal clear, over HD, beautiful, gorgeous GoToMeeting. We're talking to our guests.
The people listening to the podcast version of this, I'm curious if they even know that he's on.
Yaron is on GoToMeeting right now. Yaron, how easy was it to get on this GoToMeeting?
Oh, 2 seconds.
10 seconds. 2 seconds. It's so easy, so simple, and look how great it works. Yaron, you use GoToMeeting, I assume?
Yep.
See that? No, seriously, in all honesty, do you use it other than this?
Well, I use it. So I'm a big fan of the show, and I pretty much use any service you guys endorse.
And see, that's what the advertisers realize.
That's why he's so successful.
That's why he's so successful, because he watches the show and he takes the thing. Right now, Outbrain is redesigning their website for Squarespace. Awesome. Hey, thank you to GoToMeeting. And if you want to be a hero, go use the promo code START to begin your free trial. START. Start. And please, if you're hearing my voice right now and you're getting value out of the show, it's great that you email me and tell me you get value. Please use the products the sponsor. If you really care about the show, use the products that the sponsors make and enjoy them, and tell them you use it on your Twitter, your Facebook, your Google+, because they love that. I can't tell you. There's some folks who just help me out every time. They help us out, and they say thanks at GoToMeeting, thanks at Squarespace. And those sponsors, their social media people see that, and they love it that you're amplifying the message of how great their products are.
To clarify.
For
the person who does use Skype or whatever the others, the freebie solutions.
You said the S word. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I use Skype as well, but this is a professional solution for meetings.
Right. Which is different
Which
than
is
Skype.
something you're not really meant to be using Skype for your professional meetings.
No,
You know, it's fine
it
if
looks
you,
so unprofessional.
Right.
And then, like, if Skype's having a bad day or their bandwidth is up, it's like I've had the calls just totally degrade in the middle of the call.
Yeah.
Or they can't, like, what version are you on? I'm on this version. The new version's terrible of Skype. I mean, I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan of GoToMeeting, but the old version was so simple. The new version of Skype is like, I can't figure it out. And nobody can.
They're different tools, and you shouldn't
They're different
necessarily be
tools, right?
using.
It would be like using AIM, you know, or some IM client to do a serious meeting. Use GoToMeeting. You send that short URL. You're guaranteed it's going to work. That's what they do every day. They promise it's going to work, and it does. And I use it for a reason. I do all my meetings on it. So let's talk a little bit about video. We saw right there that the History channel, we were linking to a video. So I'm assuming that a lot of the people leveraging Outbrain are saying to themselves, hey, I can get great content for a nickel. People will click through on video, and I can monetize that $10, $20 for video. I'm not a genius at math, but if they're paying a nickel, is that like a $20 CPM for the traffic delivered or a $50 CPM? What does that wind up being?
Yeah, a nickel is $50 CPM.
A $50 CPM. So if they're making $25 or $35, it's almost profitable arbitrage, let alone if the people reshare it.
Yeah, that's true. So on the articles, the way this works is we actually install our code also on the buyer's site. And we don't only look at click-through rate, because if you look just at click-through rate, you're going to get really all the bikini stuff just showing up because people click on sensational titles. What we try to do is we try to look at what's the overall engagement after the click that we delivered and the one that we got paid for, and try to optimize for that. We have an algorithm that does that. So again, they may pay, call it 5 cents, and that would be a $50 CPM cost for them. But if they get another 3 or 4 page views from that same reader, that becomes ROI positive for them. So the similar dynamics work in video. They need a stream or two, usually at $25 to make that profitable purchase. And many publishers do. I mean, for us, content is content, whether it's articles or video. And video are definitely the upstream type of content where you have good natural monetization. And
I see here a really interesting use of the product. Patch, AOL's local site, speaking of AOL, is promoting themselves here in the related links with not an image, but a big logo of the Patch logo. Clearly, they're doing this in order to build the brand of Patch. So maybe they're not less concerned about the click-through rate. They're sort of, in a way, getting a low CPM display ad, correct?
So you're looking at the visual, the graphical version on Curbed? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that would be more, so what we do is we have an algorithm that looks at the Patch article or the buyer's article, and it tries to automatically find the most unique image available on that article and automatically resize it and crop it and focus on the most interesting stuff. In this case, our algorithm, I guess, caught the Patch logo. There's probably not a more interesting image on that article, but we don't allow our buyers to use this for branding or insert any of their brand. It's more of whatever our algorithm thinks is the best image.
So it got this little Patch because it wasn't really a great image. So they got this little Patch logo off of their site and said, oh, maybe we'll just crop that and put it in. But they can't pick what image is in there, really?
No, we do.
So you guys know better than them. The algorithm will know better than them.
Yes, absolutely. And again, for us, the most important constituency here is the reader. And we want to provide the reader with the best service as measured through click-through rate and then the overall engagement. And branding is not necessarily the best service we can provide the reader. So it's an easy choice for us.
Who gets to pick the ratio? I notice on Curbed it's 2 of theirs to 3 sponsors. Is that the optimal amount? Is it 40% yours and 60% advertising? Do they get to pick that? Do you pick that? How does that work?
The publisher gets to pick it in however they want to lay it out is fine by us. So there are some that do 5 internal and 1 paid. A bunch now, if you look at CNN, for example, or Fox News, they all do pretty much 5 inbound and 5 outbound links. So that's
5 inbound and 5 outbound. Wow, so they're really doubling down, putting a lot on the page.
Yeah, and we found that putting a lot of links to actually does not hurt the click-through rates. The engagements are very good, engagement levels. So readers seem to like it.
So one of our users, Meg, in the chat room asks, one of our producers actually, how meaningful is the blog segment for you guys versus, say, mainstream media, classic mainstream?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are about 100,000 blogs that use this and are active with it. There's a self-serve thing on our site where blogs can just install it. We don't share the revenue with the blogs. It's too messy and not very interesting. And but you can install it, and you can keep all the links inbound within your blog. As far as overall numbers, it's fairly small, and that, I mean, depends what you call a blog. So is Mashable a blog? We don't call it a blog, but for self-serve bloggers, it's not very meaningful as far as page views are concerned.
How do you deal with the fact that so many ad networks are pounding on these publishers to get carriage? I mean, I've been pitched as an angel investor by just, every month a half dozen or a dozen people who say, oh, we're just going to get bloggers to put this up and get distribution. And I say, well, how do you get those people on the phone? You realize that, like, some people are paying or giving guarantees now. It's very competitive, is it not, to get these publishers to embrace your product? What's the amount of time it takes to sign a CNN? Is that a 6-month process, a 12-month process?
First, it's crazy. So yeah, I agree with you. Everyone wants to get a piece of real estate there, and just getting the attention is very difficult. As far as the turnaround time, the deal time, it's there are deals that took us over a year to do, and there are deals that where we get a huge publisher walk up to our site, fill a form, and go live within a day or two. So it really depends. I think, when I look at the whole ad spaghetti, I just don't understand how that whole world is working and how you get any attention from the publishers, because it's all basically similar crap. And so by being differentiated, I think, and providing a very different value proposition to the publisher, it's been pretty easy for us to get the distribution.
And what's the impact on SEO of all this?
So as far as I know, none. I'm not an SEO expert, but we serve this through JavaScript, which, as far as I know, search engines generally ignore. Our links are dynamic and personalized, so it would be difficult for them to be meaningful for SEO, and we basically do a no-follow as well. So we're not playing in that space at all. That said, if there's any effect, then there may be.
The only effect would be secondary. If you got 1,000 people to the site, they spent time on it, and Google was looking at browser behavior, or if they wound up tweeting it or socially sharing it, I guess it would be a secondary effect, but not a direct effect.
Exactly. We don't try to play that game at all, but there is probably an effect there, yes.
So fourth startup, what do you think is the key to building a successful startup?
Focus, knowing who you are, and focusing on that, I think, has allowed us at Outbrain, at least, to know all the stuff that we shouldn't be doing, all the opportunities we should not be engaging with, and all the features we shouldn't be developing. I think that's probably the most important thing. It's a slippery slope out there, and when you're a startup and you have the engineering resources and you're in love with the product, it's tempting to do a lot of stuff.
How do you keep yourself focused? I mean, when people at a meeting say, "Hey, there's this huge billion-dollar business right next to us, and this business is growing at this pace, maybe we should add that. We have the resources. We've got all this money in the bank. You guys are flush with cash. You, as a serial entrepreneur, have the ability to raise an unlimited amount of funds from the top shelf people you have in the past." How do you tell those people inside the company, like, hey, even though we have the ability to raise this money, even though we have the ability to spend this money, we're not going to do so. We're going to not take that hill.
So the most important thing we do here is we have what I call the lighthouse, which is basically what we want to be in 5-10 years when we achieve our mission, which is to show every reader the most interesting link. I'm the guardian of that lighthouse, and I'm pretty obsessive. I'm an obsessive maniac about that. So I take joy in saying no to opportunities. I think it was one of our biggest mistakes at Quigo and the previous companies was taking opportunities with big companies which were not part of our strategy. They were sort of short-term opportunities. and I see that as pretty much the most important job on my plate is making sure we stick to the lighthouse.
And how do you deal with the stress? I mean, it can be overwhelming at times to build these businesses. You've built a number of them. I'm sure there have been times when things did not go according to plan. There must have been some sleepless nights. How do you manage, on a very personal level, the stress that comes with being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so a startup is an insane roller coaster where it seems like you're $1 billion company, and then it seems like you're out of business, and that's all before lunch. And so I think having a co-founder, which I trust, trust blindly, I think is a great thing. We served together in the Navy, and so hopefully our sinus waves of the ups and downs in this roller coaster are not fully synced. That helps a lot. And then I truly believe in what our long-term mission is, and I think that if we show a more interesting link to the readers while everyone else is pretty much focused on the crap that I personally don't want to click on, then eventually we'll work out things. And that's proven to be true so far. So the short-term stuff usually goes away within a couple of days and isn't actually as critical as it seems at the time. I just try to remember that.
And so of the 4 businesses you've done, how many times did you have a co-founder?
In all of them, basically.
And you've never thought, hey, I could have twice as much equity, I've got a big name, I've got the contacts, I should just do this myself and double up on the equity?
No, so I think that equity and dilution are one of the things that least matter in a startup. I think for me, it's about optimizing for runway and for growth, and for being able to execute on our dream is way more important than dilution. So I think you can be a dilution maniac and then just hit the wall usually with a lot of equity. So
hitting the wall with 40% equity, not as good as a tremendous sale with 10, 20%.
That's true. And, I think the cost of that, when I give that advice to other entrepreneurs, I know they may be pissed at me at the end of the road. If there's a success, they may have to compromise and get a 4-seat jet instead of a 6-seat jet and be upset that I told them that dilution doesn't matter.
Right. But they still got the jet. They still booked a win.
Yes.
They still booked a win. And let's go back to video for a second, since it's such a huge space. What's your take on where consumption is going? Does text have a place in the future, or do you think that video versions of every major brand will take place on the web, including the niche sites, or niche if you're in America? If the niche and the niche sites, if there was a video version of Curbed, are people going to even bother to read it, or is that going to really wall up the text space? It already seems to be taking away the massive amount of high-quality video being produced. Seems to be taking away from actually readership of text.
Yeah, I'm not sure we see that. I think we're seeing interesting patterns in our install base, which is pretty broad at this point. We're seeing during the day a lot of text consumption. I think people don't like turning on their speakers at work, and during the nights and weekends, we see a lot more video being consumed. So I personally read a lot more than I watch video, and since we started this, it's been basically my mission to solve this problem of showing an interesting link for myself, and so I know as long as I'm interested in reading articles, I think that'll.
That's a really interesting observation, though, that people don't want to watch video at work. Considering I fired somebody for watching video at work 6 months ago, 3 times. I mean, you're not going to.
That's a funny story that you might want to share. Like, it was a French.
Well, here's what happened.
This is funny.
You're an entrepreneur, and you've been through it all, right? You've seen employees do crazy stuff, right?
Yes, crazy as it gets.
As crazy as it gets. And so there's somebody who's the first job out of school or whatever, and I walk by, and he's watching a film. And I recognized the film. It's called A Prophet. It was like one of the best films of last year. And he's watching a film, and I said, "Is that A Prophet?" He goes, "Yeah, it's a great film." I said, "Yeah, I know, I saw it." I said, "You can watch movies and do your work at the same time?" He said, "Yeah, I just have it on the background." And I was like, on in the background, it's like kind of an action gangster movie. I was like, I really don't think you should watch it there. And I walk away. And then I realize the film has subtitles. And so unless he speaks French, he can't be possibly watching it in the background. So I turn around and I say, tu parles français? And he says, what? And I said, tu parles français? Comment allez-vous? Bonsoir, bonjour, anything. He doesn't speak French. I said, you're lying to me. So anyway, I said, listen, so I sort of have his manager talk to me. You can't do that. I don't know, 2 months later, I come by his desk. He's watching Breaking Bad at work. And I say, you're watching Breaking Bad at work? I already warned you about this. So anyway, we talk about it in our leadership meeting. Everybody sort of has a laugh about it, like, my God, it wasn't a great work, it wasn't a bad work, it was just okay. I go by his desk 2 days after warning him about the Breaking Bad, and after his manager talked to him about it, and he's watching a talk show. And I said, are you watching video again? He said, yeah, I was just, and I just walked away, and I fired him. Yaron, what's the craziest story you've had? I think that's pretty good. You have to admit that's a pretty good story.
That is a pretty good.
Was I unreasonable, do you think, in that case?
No, not at all. I think.
You think people should not watch foreign films at work, is what you're saying? You're going out on a limb?
Well, it should be high quality film.
Yeah,
but
this was a good. I in a way, I felt bad because Breaking Bad is also an amazing and a prophet. These are two things I love, and I was just like, you have good taste in film, but you have bad judgment. What's the craziest thing you've seen, and how did you deal with it?
Oh, the craziest probably I can't share here. There was police involved in.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The police. Oh my goodness. Wow. So that means
You've got one crazier than that.
Give me the one that's just a. I do have one crazier than that. But anyway, go one below that. I mean, what's something you've had to deal with that was just shocking, and how did you deal with it? In broad strokes, leaving out the name.
I have a non-employee story, which might interest you of how I found myself relocating from Israel to the U.S. So at Quigo, we couldn't raise VC funding for 4 years. It took us 4 years to get our A round done, and we were totally out of money and running on fumes for basically 4 years. We finally got VC term sheets and sign one and negotiate a deal. And about 3 months after the term sheet, and we're almost ready to close the deal, I had my reserve service, which in Israel everyone serves for a month every year in reserve service, and that year happened to be in Gaza Strip. And so I figured out, what am I going to do? Our VC is from Boston. We agreed on leaving the company in Israel, but should I tell them? Should I not? I decided I won't. I'll just run this through my cell phone and have them think that I'm running the whole negotiation from the office. And so we do that. We get to a day before the closing of the deal, and we have this checklist of items we need to close and decide to get everyone on a conference call. We do that, about 30 people, mostly Americans. And we start the call, which was about a 3-hour call. And 5 minutes into it, shooting starts all over our station in Gaza.
Wow.
And it's not life-threatening, but a lot of noise, and our folks are shooting in the air as well to keep people away. And this is going on for about 2 hours. And it took me about 15 minutes to explain the situation because the partner in Boston at the VC thought that one of his lawyers forgot the PlayStation on. And I finally explained the situation. I'm in Gaza Strip under fire, but let's close the deal. And so we do this call with shooting on and off, and we end the call, and then the guys take a 2-minute break on mute and come back to us and say, okay, we had a quick partner discussion, decided not to invest in the company, which was devastating for us. And so I begged for, what can we do to close the deal? And they said, if you and your co-founder relocate to the U.S. within 45 days, we'll make the investment. But if you don't, you lose all your equity in the company, 100%. So I said, we're done. Let's close the deal. And that's how we closed it. And I had another about 20 days in Gaza, but then moved with my family to New York.
That could be I think that's up there for story of the year.
It is, yeah.
You've become you've become an early candidate for story of the year. Yaron,
Excellent.
What a great guest you've been. So great to have you on the program. Always great to have a serial entrepreneur who's seen it all. Continued success. with Outbrain. If you are an amazing developer and you absolutely kick butt, email Galai, Galai, at outbrain.com, and he may give you a job and some equity in a really up-and-coming company, huh?
Excellent, thanks, and thanks for a wonderful show. I've been a fan since the Brian Alvey show. So
wow,
that was number one.
That was number one. You've been in it from the beginning. Hey, I'll see you when I'm in New York, and thanks so much for supporting the program.
Excellent, thank you.
Cheers. See you next time. All right, let's do a quick Ask Jason. Okay, who is on the call? That was a great guest, huh, Tyler?
Yeah.
That was a great guest.
Yep.
Anytime you got a guy who's
I love his point about how the Israeli guys, that it's mandatory to go through military.
mandatory to grow the F up.
First of all,
Mandatory to grow the F up.
Tel Aviv is second only to Silicon Valley in terms of
Number of startups. Yeah.
I mean, it's above LA, maybe New York.
Oh yeah, it's definitely bigger than New York, I think.
But what's crazy
Well,
is,
I don't know about New York, not today.
but think on a percentage basis, you're only talking, it's way smaller than New York City, the whole country. Right?
Uh-huh.
So on a percentage basis, it's incredible the amount of stuff that comes out of
Yep.
there. So it'd be interesting to do a real kind of analysis on why they think that is.
Okay, is our caller there?
Yeah, hi guys.
Hey, is this Anson?
Holy cow, his
Yeah.
picture looks
Wow,
How's it
that
going?
picture looks awesome.
Yeah.
How are you doing there?
Good. Yeah, I'm down in Melbourne, Australia. So
Oh, very
it's been
nice.
a great connection the whole show so far. It's
Awesome.
impressive.
Well, that's that GoToMeeting. So tell us, what is your question?
Right. So a few years ago, I founded just really a little weekend startup. It's called Demise. It's a domain name search engine, kind of a bit of mousetrap, I guess. Offers as you type lookup. And it's kind of in that referral space. I make money by referring people on to GoDaddy and all those sort of people. And it's kind of been always a side project. I've been doing other things, but it's grown modestly over that time. Every year, I see about 50% growth in revenue and traffic. And I guess I'm starting to get a few inquiries about acquiring Demise from other people. Sometimes it's just a sort of blind cash offer. Other times it's something more involved, or people just want data.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just curious, how do I deal with these inquiries? It's still really run as a side project. I don't have a huge amount of time to, to put into that.
So this is a great question. How do I know when to sell a little side project? I think you should be intentional about it. If you want to sell it, you should package it. Maybe find somebody who is either a domain name broker or like those flip websites, I don't know what the websites are, but it's a bunch of flipping websites. And basically make a case for it. I would put on the site, this site is for sale, it was a side project, explain your position. I've been building this, I think it can go in these different directions, and it's making $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. I'm looking for somebody to buy it. Would you like to make an offer? I'll support it for this amount of months, or whatever. And then you can just email that to the business development people at the different companies. Very simple to find them. You type in GoDaddy Business Development, you type this Business Development, Squarespace Business Development, GoToMeetings Business Development into LinkedIn. You find them, you email them, you call them, you send the packet. There's also bankers you can hire, but you're way too small for that. So that's what happens next. But you have something very small, and how much does it make a month approximately? A couple $100, a couple $1,000?
A couple grand.
A couple of grand a month.
$1,000, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we call this a dude business. Like, hey, I built it on the weekends. If you can get a couple of years revenue in advance, great. If you get 2 or 3 years, if it makes $500,000 a year and they offer you $1 million or $2 million, take it. I mean, it's money in the bank, and you may also get a job out of it. I mean, that's the tough thing, is that it may come with a job, but I think it's a good Demise is a great domain name in and of itself, and it's a very clever website. So I think you're going to have no problem selling it. And I would just put up my story, how you built it, make it personal, who you are, where you live, a picture of you in front of your car, and then I'm going to be, as an individual, very likely to say, oh, I identify with that. I don't mind giving that person some money for the hard work they put into it. Tell your story, and then put it on a couple of sites, and there's domain brokers and other folks who will sell it for you. But Tyler, what are your thoughts?
You pretty much covered all the bases on that one.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty simple one.
Yeah.
I think tell your story to the public. and then put it on a couple of sites, put it on Craigslist, et cetera. And then be intentional. Say, I'm going to make a list of 10 targets. I'm going to contact each one of them. And then I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to sell it by this date. Put your best offer in.
First thing I think you got to do is look at everything that is, really close to what you're doing and find out what they have sold for.
Yeah. I mean, it's very simple. I mean, if you have a certain amount of revenue, you can just times that by 2 or 3 and say, a reasonable person might pay 1 year's revenue, 2 years revenue, 3 years revenue. Because you're so small, nobody's going to buy it for the revenue. They're going to buy it for the revenue potential. So if they look at it and go, I can triple the revenue, quadruple the revenue, I can go 10x on the revenue, great.
I'd say the other thing to
What
do
about if
is...
you want to, sorry.
What's that?
I was gonna say,
Sorry.
if you want to use like the technology as a selling point, I mean, how do you go about that as opposed to revenue? So that might be a better option for me.
Yeah, I mean, some people might look at the technology and say there's something there. It's hard to tell. I mean,
I was going to say though, if you do get clear or firm about the fact that you're going to sell it, you might want to, and you've kind of been letting it cruise control. It's obviously not a bad time to double down on it for a few months to show a nice curve as you're going into selling it.
yeah, I mean, people do that when they're selling it. They try to ramp up. You maybe buy a little SEO traffic, buy a little stumble upon traffic, buy a little Outbrain traffic, whatever, to get a little extra juice into it. But it's a dude business. If you can flip it for anything, it's worth it. And then what I would do is a lot of times people are looking for, will I have some support? So you could say in the sale, I'm going to include X number of hours of ongoing support. So just say what deal you're looking for. I'm looking to sell it for at least, double the revenue. The revenue's been X. And people do that. They put out exactly what, they make a little one-pager. I get emailed them all the time. I think putting it public is like a great way to show interest. I built this and then you put it on Hacker News. I built a site that makes $175,000 a year, and now I want to sell it. What should I do? That, like asking the question on this show, asking the question on Hacker News, asking the question on Quora, that's a great way to get interest as well. So I'd suggest doing that. And you've succeeded by getting interest on this show. Thank you so much for calling in, and we'll see you when we're in Melbourne. Somebody got to invite us back down to Australia again. We had such a good time in Sydney.
Yep.
What a great show. Thank you, Yaron from Outbrain. Thank you, Tyler Crowley, back from Europe. Thank you at Squarespace. Thank you at GoToMeeting. And we'll see you all next time on This Week in Startups.